Hello, I'm Christina, an artist and illustrator, and today we're going to be coloring one of my favorite pages from Charming Fall Favorites, this cozy bed scene. I'm going to add a sunset to my window, so I'll start by adding the highlights to the top of this bed with a yellow marker. Today, though, I'm not going to focus too much on shadows and shading and lighting, because I really want to have fun with this quilt on the bed. There will, of course, be some shading and shadows, but it's not going to be the main focus of the page. The great thing about this page, though, is that you have lots of options for different lighting scenarios. You could use light coming in from the window, you could use the little lamp on the right side of the bed, or you could have light coming in from in front of the cat at the bottom of the page. The choice is yours. And while I love playing with lighting, sometimes I just want to take a break, and today I really wanted to have fun with different patterns and designs on all of these little squares of this quilt. Let me know if you are a sewing fan, because I definitely am. I've been sewing for a handful of years now, but I can't seem to find enough time to finish any big projects like quilts, and that's why I thought it would be fun to color one instead. Here is the color palette I chose. I definitely wanted a fall theme, but I also wanted to do something a bit non-traditional, so I threw in some dusty navy blue with my oranges and rust colors. And today I'll show you a material I don't think you've seen before, these Stabilo fine liners I picked up at my local craft store. I use these on a couple of squares of my quilt to draw in a pretty leaf pattern. I'll go ahead and add a link to these items in the description of the video down below. It's been a little while since I've colored, and after starting this page, I think I figured out why. Decision fatigue. I don't know if you have experienced this before, but there are a lot of decisions that go into coloring, and sometimes it just seems a bit overwhelming. And I get tired. I don't want to worry about color palettes or patterns and designs and making things look cohesive and what lighting scenario to use. And all these decisions just keep me from picking up my markers. I've found myself really getting into cross-stitching and diamond painting lately because I can pick up a pattern and just follow along and create something. Now, I know I'm in a bit of a unique position because I do create coloring content, and maybe there's a little more pressure in that regards. But let me know if you've felt this way too, and it's kept you from opening up your coloring books and getting out your alcohol markers. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a break. And even though I do feel a bit guilty about not getting you videos every single week, hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from. The great news is, when I started this page, I got right back into the swing of things, and I started having a lot of fun. This isn't my first try at this page, of course, and if you hang on till the end, I'll show you the other page. It has very different vibes, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear what you think. Adding designs to these quilt squares was, of course, my favorite part, even though I did have trouble figuring out what designs to choose. The best source of inspiration I think I found was looking up autumn fabric. Not autumn quilts, autumn fabric, because there were so many different designs to choose from. So I picked a fabric here and there, changed the colors around a little, and maybe tweaked the designs and added them to my bedspread. Here's where I added some slight shadows, just where the fabric kind of tucks into each other and behind the frame. And it just adds a little dimension and makes it look a little less flat looking. And of course I put shadows under the pillows as well. I think this page is really versatile. I started dreaming up so many different themes that could work on this page. This really isn't specifically a fall page. You can make this a coastal theme, a Christmas theme. You could transform this into a spring or summer quilt. The ideas are really endless. My color palette is inspired by a walk I took around my neighborhood. It was getting a little later in the day and daylight savings time had ended and it was almost dark. And just by chance, I ended up walking during the most glorious sunset. Very autumny, orange, bright. The maple trees were just lit up, bright russet red. It was just magical. Now let me show you how I added some cool touches to this bedroom. I'm using 4 different yellows. I will list them down below. You start with the very lightest yellow, add just a little spot of that where the highlight would be. You go in with your second yellow, color a little, go back with your first color and color over where those 2 colors meet. Then do that with the next colors. I'll show you again in the lamp above these handles. Again, you start with your lightest yellow and do a little spot. You go in with your next color right over the edge on either side on this lamp part, and then back in with your lightest yellow. You take your third color, and this is the main yellow. You go back in with your second and layer over it. And then you take your darkest yellow and make that the shadow area. And it turns into a gold accessory. What's important, in my opinion, is to go in and layer over the colors, the blending area, twice. I always used to think I could skip that part, but the blend is so much better if you go in twice. And if you need any clarification on that, I could probably make a short video for you. Just let me know in the comments below. For the inside of my lamp, I just used the 2 darkest yellows to make it dark inside since it wasn't turned on. And last but not least, don't forget the white highlight because this item is shiny. I'm using a white gel pen. If you're nervous to give this effect a try, it's great to have these little handles to try on because there's such little areas. If you mess up, it won't look too bad. I'm coloring my roses a red shade, actually 2 red shades, just a very simple blend, sort of like the gold effect, but instead of 4 colors, I'm using 2. I go in first with my lightest color on the tips, then the darkest color, and then I go in again with my lightest color, and I did use a 3rd darker red for the center of the flowers. I love coloring accessories on pages, just little areas that need color, especially things like plant pots. I used a 2-color blend on this one to bring in some more blue from that bedspread. And I'm going to use the knit effect on this blanket here under the cat. I'm going to start with a solid shade of marigold yellowy orange, and I'll let that dry. And in the meantime, I will color in this cat, and I decided to make it look like my cat Mario. He's a tuxedo. So I'm using a very dark, warm gray color, and it comes out almost black, but it'll dry and you'll be able to see his eyes underneath the fur color. You'll see on my other page, my cat is orange, just like my orange cat, Otto. And as much as I love cats, you'll notice there are dogs in my coloring books as well, because dog lovers are just as wonderful as us cat lovers are. If you haven't seen my very first alcohol marker tips and tricks video, I did this effect. It's the knit effect. I'm using a colorless blender and making V's all across this blanket. And because I rarely show this, here is my scratch sheet of paper, which is helping me pick my colors here and helping me pick designs as well for the quilt. It helps me a lot in my coloring process. For example, I was having issues choosing the carpet color, so I went in with these 3 different greens and put them around all the colors in my page just to see how they would look, sort of auditioning them. And I ended up going with this crazy khaki color on the side just to be a little different. That process also helped me figure out what color to make the walls, and I chose this lighter green color because I was feeling a little overwhelmed by the oranges and blues, and I thought this would be a good compliment. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and if you would have chosen a different color. I'm going to add some details to the walls, but I need to let that green color dry, so I'm going to add some shadows under my cat first. Now that the wall is dry, I'm going to add some stripes up and down the wall so that it looks like wallpaper. I've decided to make my stripes about 1 centimeter apart, and I'm kind of eyeballing it, and I'm using a double-sided ruler to make the lines nice and straight. I'll admit this pine tree picture ended up looking a bit Christmassy in the end because I wanted to tie in some red to go with those red roses on the other side of the page. But I'm not unhappy about it because I don't know about you, but in the autumn, I've always got Christmas on my mind. I'm using a 2-color blend here, a slightly darker red in the corners. It gives it a little more depth, and I really like how it turned out. It's hard to see here, but I've colored in those curtains. They're a very pale blue color, and I don't like them, so they will change a little later. But first, we're going to practice on our sky before we go into our main page, and I want to find the right blend for my sunset. I want it to be warm and autumny, just like the sunset I saw on my walk. So here I am practicing with some blends. And right off the bat, I know that this one isn't going to work, which makes me really glad that I practiced first. Let's try again with a different set of colors, and I think I want to add a bit of a curve to the bottom because the straight lines don't look very natural to me. And we'll start with a really pale yellow and then work into a peachy color. And I kind of like how this looks, and I think I might use similar colors on the final window. Now that I've practiced, I feel much more confident coloring in the window on this page. I'm starting with that very light yellow, and then I added a darker, warmer yellow before I get to the top and add more of a peachy yellow. And just like that gold lamp, I'm going back in and blending over twice where these transitions of colors are for a better blend. I don't know if you've noticed, but I added that partition in the window on purpose. I could have made a wide open window pane, but I like having a break in the windows so you don't have to color the whole thing at once. I'm already liking these dark window treatments way better than the light ones. But I will add details to them so they look a little different than the pillows right next to them. I'm coloring the book a muted khaki green so that it doesn't stand out too much, and I'll do a muted red on this picture frame at the top left of the page. I'm adding the final details to these window curtains, and I'm using a super light touch with this acrylic marker to make very thin stripes. To make these windows look glass, I'm adding some white gel pen highlights to the panes, and I'll add them to the picture glass as well. I'm using a very light touch with my gel pen, and sometimes I need to scrape off some dry white gel to get it to flow a little more smoothly. The page is complete, and here are the details up close. I used a copper color for the bed wood frame, and I show how to do that technique in another video. I'll link it down below. And here are all of my quilt squares, my wall, my picture frame, and my sunset sky. If you're wondering how the other page turned out, I'll show you in just a moment. I wanted you to see what my desk looks like after I complete one of these pages. It is definitely messy, and it took more than one day to finish this, so this stayed like this for a while. But it's all in the name of fun. I was trying for autumn on my first page, but it ended up being a little more summery than I expected. Here is my orange cat Otto, and all of the little quilt squares, the purple background, and the very peachy pink sky. Very different vibes, and I think I've got to do a Christmas one next. Let me know what you think. As always, thanks for joining me. Take care, and I'll see you soon.